Quest for Sleeping Beauty for the PlayStation 2 is a title that has garnered a reputation not for its excellence, but rather for its lack of quality and imagination. Released in 2006, this game was developed by the French company Magic Pockets, a studio that had primarily been known for its work on handheld and licensed games. Unfortunately, Quest for Sleeping Beauty stands as a glaring example of a game that failed to meet the expectations of even the most forgiving gamers, ultimately becoming a budget title that is often dismissed as a low point in the PS2 minute's extensive library.
Magic Pockets, the developer behind Quest for Sleeping Beauty, was no stranger to creating games based on popular licenses, especially in the early 2000s. The studio had a history of working on various handheld titles, many of which were designed for younger audiences. However, their transition to the PlayStation 2 with Quest for Sleeping Beauty did not go as smoothly as one might have hoped. The game was published by Phoenix Games, a company notorious for releasing low-quality titles, and the results are predictable.
Quest for Sleeping Beauty was released as a budget title, which in itself isn't necessarily a condemnation. Budget titles can sometimes surprise with their ingenuity and charm, providing gamers with a worthwhile experience at a fraction of the cost of mainstream releases. However, Quest for Sleeping Beauty did not fall into this category. Instead, it became a symbol of what can go wrong when a game is rushed to market with minimal effort and an apparent lack of direction.
From the outset, it was clear that this game was not designed to compete with the more polished and engaging titles of the time. The budget price point might have been intended to attract parents looking for a cheap game to entertain their children. But even at a low cost, Quest for Sleeping Beauty struggled to justify its existence. The game feels like it was cobbled together without any real passion or creativity, merely fulfilling a contractual obligation to produce a title based on the classic fairy tale.
The mid-2000s was a period of significant growth and innovation in the gaming industry. The PlayStation 2 was home to some of the most memorable and groundbreaking games of that era, pushing the boundaries of what could be achieved on the platform. Unfortunately, Quest for Sleeping Beauty did not even attempt to reach such heights. In fact, it fell so far short of the standards set by its contemporaries that it is difficult to understand how it was greenlit for release in the first place.
The game's graphics, for instance, were woefully outdated even by the standards of 2006. The PlayStation 2 was capable of delivering visually stunning experiences, but Quest for Sleeping Beauty instead opted for crude, simplistic visuals that looked more at home on an early PS1 game. The environments were bland and repetitive, with little to no detail to draw the player in. Character models were equally uninspired, lacking any sense of personality or charm. This lack of visual appeal made the game a chore to play, as there was nothing to engage the player's senses or imagination.
The gameplay of Quest for Sleeping Beauty can best be described as a poor imitation of classic arcade games, most notably Pac-Man. The game's core mechanics revolve around navigating maze-like environments, collecting items, and avoiding enemies. However, where Pac-Man's simplicity is its strength, providing a challenging and addictive experience, Quest for Sleeping Beauty manages to strip away all the elements that made Pac-Man fun, leaving behind a hollow shell of a game.
In Quest for Sleeping Beauty, players take control of a knight who must rescue the titular Sleeping Beauty by traversing a series of uninspired levels. These levels are laid out in a grid-like fashion, with the player needing to collect keys to unlock doors and progress. The problem is that the gameplay is incredibly shallow and monotonous. The maps lack any real challenge or variation, making each level feel like a tedious slog rather than an exciting adventure.
Moreover, the game fails to introduce any new mechanics or challenges as it progresses, resulting in an experience that quickly becomes stale. The enemies, which in theory should add a layer of tension or strategy, are poorly designed and easily avoidable. There is no real sense of danger or excitement, and the game does not incentivize the player to engage with its mechanics in any meaningful way. As a result, Quest for Sleeping Beauty comes off as nothing more than a bad Pac-Man clone.
devoid of any originality or fun.
One of the most glaring issues with Quest for Sleeping Beauty is its overwhelming shallowness. The game feels like it was designed with the bare minimum of effort, with little thought given to providing an engaging or enjoyable experience. The story, which should have been a central element given its fairy tale inspiration, is almost non-existent. There is no attempt to flesh out the narrative or develop the characters, leaving players with no reason to care about the outcome of their quest.
This shallowness extends to every aspect of the game, from its lackluster visuals to its uninspired gameplay. The levels are repetitive, the controls are clunky, and the overall presentation is sloppy. There is no depth or complexity to be found, and the game offers no incentive for players to invest their time or energy. In an era where games were becoming more sophisticated and immersive, Quest for Sleeping Beauty felt like a relic of a bygone age, one where such shallowness might have been more forgivable.
Quest for Sleeping Beauty for the PlayStation 2 is a game that failed on nearly every level. Developed by Magic Pockets and published as a budget title, it lacked the polish, creativity, and engagement that gamers had come to expect from even the most modest releases. Its poorly executed gameplay, which borrowed heavily from classic arcade titles like Pac-Man, only served to highlight the game's overall lack of originality and depth. In an era when the gaming industry was pushing forward with innovative and exciting experiences, Quest for Sleeping Beauty was a stark reminder of how far short some titles could fall. It remains a cautionary tale of what can happen when a game is released with little regard for quality, destined to be remembered not as a beloved classic, but as a forgettable misstep in the vast PlayStation 2 library.